if someone's gone through a modern education system, even if they're in the Muslim world, right, the modern education system will have fed them with these assumptions, even if it's like very subtle. Sometimes it's not subtle, but even if it is, they will have just taken on this notion, because the way science is taught to them, for example, it's taught as being much more than it really is. It's taught as being the ultimate explanation for everything. It's taught as being the kind of sole, like, epistemological source that we can rely on. That's not true. It's not taught as just one way of knowing among others, right? It's taught as like the be all and end all. Number two, the way things like quote unquote natural law are talked about very much gives the impression that, okay, these are laws, they can't be broken. Any claim that they were broken, whatever, is just nonsense, right? So all of that is very subtly and not so subtly infused in the education system. And so year after year after year after year, you kind of take on those assumptions, and they come to seem so natural that you don't realize that, again, that is a particular set of philosophical assumptions about the world. It's a particular worldview that, it's all contestable. You can contest, every aspect of that, like philosophically speaking, right? And so Muslims sometimes don't realize that they've taken on questionable assumptions, and they just take those for granted because that's the way they're presented to them. And so they have these confusions. Well, wait a minute, how can Jesus be born of a virgin? Like, I've taken biology, right? And that conflicts. Well, yeah, of course you've taken biology. No one says that, I admit that's a break in the pattern. Like, no one's saying that it's normal for that to happen. But the question is, your assumption that it cannot happen, that is a philosophical assumption. It's not a scientific statement. When you say the pattern cannot be broken, that's not a scientific statement. That's a philosophical judgment about the nature of what we're calling scientific laws. We wouldn't call them scientific laws. We would call them something like, again, sunnatullahi fil kawn, like Allah's sunnah in the universe, or, divine patterns, or, we would have other language ideally that we would use to describe these things. But sometimes, again, these are very deep lying assumptions, and people don't know that, okay, they're really acquiring a different paradigm. Their brain is being formatted, like with a different program, so to speak, when they go through this modern education system. And then, all of a sudden they have all these things that they take for granted. Then they see something in the Quran. They're like, wait a minute, these clash. So the Quran must be problematic, or Islam is wrong, or I'm not understanding it right, or, it causes confusion.